The February rain hammered against the stained glass windows of St. Catherine's Cathedral like thousands of tiny fists demanding entry. Inside, 300 guests sat waiting, their designer clothes rustling with anticipation as they whispered about the ceremony that should have started 20 minutes ago. Chen stood at the back of the cathedral, one hand pressed against the ancient oak door for balance, the other clutching a manila folder against her chest like armor. She was 8 months pregnant, her belly swollen beneath a simple black dress that cost less than the bridesmaid's shoes. Water dripped from her dark hair onto the marble floor, creating small pools that reflected the candlelight. She hadn't planned to come. Had spent the past 3 weeks convincing herself that showing up would be petty, vindictive, beneath her. But then the contractions had started that morning, false labor, the doctor had assured her, and something inside her had shifted. Some primal instinct that whispered, "Your daughter deserves to see this." Through the doors, she could hear the string quartet playing Pachelbel's canon for the third time, the melody taking on a desperate quality as the minutes ticked past. She could picture Marcus at the altar, checking his Rolex with barely concealed irritation, his perfect jaw clenched in that way she'd once found attractive but now recognized as barely controlled rage at things not going exactly as planned. Maya pushed open the door. The sound echoed through the cathedral like a gunshot. 300 heads turned in unison, a wave of shock rippling through the crowd as they took in the pregnant woman standing in the doorway, soaked to the skin and visibly trembling. Marcus Chen, 34, devastatingly handsome in his Tom Ford tuxedo, went perfectly still at the altar. His best man touched his arm, saying something Maya couldn't hear, but Marcus didn't respond. He was staring at her with an expression she'd never seen before, pure, unadulterated fear. Next to him, Sienna Montgomery looked like a porcelain doll that had just cracked down the middle. At 26, she was everything Maya wasn't, blonde, willowy, the daughter of one of San Francisco's oldest families. Her Vera Wang wedding dress probably cost more than Maya's entire year's salary as a social worker. Her perfectly made-up face went from confusion to horror to rage in the space of 3 seconds. "What is she doing here?" Sienna's voice carried through the cathedral's acoustics, shrill and sharp. "Marcus, you said she wouldn't come. You promised she wouldn't ruin our day." Maya walked down the center aisle, her wet shoes squeaking against marble floors where countless brides before her had made this same journey. But none of them, she suspected, had been 8 months pregnant with the groom's child while he married someone else. "I'm not here to ruin anything," Maya said quietly, her voice surprisingly steady despite the trembling in her hands. "I'm here to clarify a few things." Marcus finally found his voice. "Maya, this is neither the time nor the place. If you need to discuss custody arrangements, custody arrangements." Maya laughed, the sound bitter and sharp. "Is that what we're calling it now?" She reached the altar, standing just a few feet from the man she'd loved for 6 years. The man who'd proposed to her 3 years ago with a ring he'd later claimed was cubic zirconia, not the diamond she'd believed. The man who'd gotten her pregnant, then served her with a restraining order 2 months into the pregnancy when she tried to discuss their future. "Ladies and gentlemen," Maya said, turning to address the crowd. Her legs were shaking so badly she worried they might give out, but she forced herself to stand straight. "I apologize for the interruption. I know you're all here to celebrate the union of Marcus Chen and Sienna Montgomery. What a beautiful couple they make." "Security," Sienna hissed, frantically gesturing to the ushers. "Get her out of here. This is my wedding day." "Actually," Maya continued, louder now, "I thought you all deserved to know exactly who you're celebrating today. So I brought some reading material." She opened the manila folder with trembling fingers. Inside were documents she'd spent 3 weeks compiling with the help of her lawyer, documents that had cost her most of her savings and all of her remaining naivety about the man she'd once planned to marry. "Marcus Chen," she read, her voice growing stronger, "currently stands accused of fraud in 3 separate civil suits. He's been embezzling from his family's investment firm for the past 18 months, approximately $2.3 million in total. His parents don't know yet. I confirmed that this morning, but they will by Monday when the forensic accountants my attorney hired finish their report." The cathedral erupted in shocked murmurs. Marcus's face went from pale to crimson. That's slander. You can't prove any of, I can prove all of it. Maya pulled out the first document, holding it up. Bank transfers, falsified client statements, offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. My lawyer has already filed copies with the SEC and the California Bar Association since you're a licensed attorney, Marcus. They're very interested in speaking with you. Sienna was staring at Marcus with dawning horror. What is she talking about? Marcus, tell them she's lying. Tell them this is just some jealous ex trying to, oh, I'm not finished. Maya turned back to the crowd, many of whom were already pulling out their phones, no doubt texting frantically or searching for Marcus Chen plus fraud. The restraining order Marcus filed against me 2 months ago? It was based on fabricated evidence. He claimed I was stalking him, threatening him, making his life hell because he'd moved on. She pulled out another document. This is the sworn statement from the doorman at Marcus's building. He confirms Marcus paid him $5,000 to claim he'd seen me lurking in the lobby making threats. The doorman's conscience got the better of him last week. He's already given his testimony to my attorney. Marcus took a step forward, his face twisted with an emotion Maya had seen before, when she'd confronted him about the other women, about the money that kept disappearing, about all the lies she'd tried so hard to believe weren't lies. Maya, please. Don't do this. Think about our child. Do you really want her to grow up knowing her mother destroyed her father's life? Destroyed your life? Maya felt something break open inside her chest, something that had been holding back a flood for far too long. You served me with a restraining order when I was 4 months pregnant, Marcus. You told the judge I was unstable, dangerous, that you feared for your safety. You made me look like a monster to protect yourself because you knew I'd discovered the truth about your finances. She turned to Sienna, who had gone perfectly still, her bouquet trembling in her hands. Did he tell you about me? Did he mention that he was engaged before you? That we lived together for 3 years, that we were planning our own wedding before I discovered I was pregnant? Sienna's silence was answer enough. He told you I was crazy, didn't he? Maya continued softly. Obsessed. That I'd made up the pregnancy to trap him. That the restraining order was necessary because I wouldn't leave him alone. A single tear ran down Sienna's perfectly made-up face, creating a streak of mascara. He said you were his ex-girlfriend. That you'd had a difficult breakup. That you were unstable and fixated on him. I was his fiancée, Maya said. We were together for 6 years. He proposed on my 30th birthday with a ring he later claimed was fake, though I'm fairly certain he pawned the real diamond to cover some of his losses. When I got pregnant, he didn't congratulate me. He didn't celebrate. He started making plans to disappear from my life completely. She pulled out another document, this one making her hands shake so badly she could barely hold it. This is a contract Marcus had drawn up 3 weeks before he served me with the restraining order. It outlines his plan to pay me $100,000 to terminate the pregnancy and sign away any future claims on him. When I refused, that's when the restraining order appeared. The cathedral was completely silent now except for the sound of rain against glass and Sienna's harsh breathing. There's more, Maya said, addressing the crowd again. Marcus's embezzlement isn't just affecting his family's clients. Some of those clients are sitting in this cathedral right now. The Henderson Retirement Fund, embezzled to pay for this wedding venue. The Morrison Trust, used to cover Marcus's gambling debts in Vegas. The Yamamoto Investment Portfolio, currently paying for his honeymoon suite in Bora Bora. She pulled out a list, reading names. With each one, someone in the crowd gasped or stood up, faces going from shock to rage. These were Marcus's parents' closest friends, the people who'd trusted the Chen family with their life savings. No, Marcus said, his voice strangled. No, that's not, you're twisting everything. Sienna, don't listen to her. She's been planning this for months, trying to destroy me because I chose you over. You didn't choose her over me, Maya interrupted. You chose her family's money over your mounting debt. You chose the Montgomery name to give you legitimacy while you covered your tracks. You chose a wife who wouldn't ask questions about where the money was going because she'd never had to worry about money in her entire life. Sienna was crying openly now, mascara streaming down her face. Is any of this true? Marcus, look at me. Is any of this true? Marcus opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Maya watched him struggle, watched him realize that there was no lie smooth enough to cover what she'd just exposed. His entire carefully constructed facade was crumbling in real time. I have one more thing, Maya said, pulling out the final document with shaking hands. This one hurt more than all the others combined. 3 months ago, Marcus's attorney contacted me with a settlement offer. If I agreed to terminate the pregnancy and disappear from his life completely, he would pay me $300,000 and ensure I'd never work as a social worker in California again. She looked at Marcus, really looked at him, seeing not the man she'd loved but the monster he'd always been underneath. When I refused, your attorney told me that Marcus had connections. That accidents happen to pregnant women all the time. That it would be very unfortunate if something happened to me or my unborn child. The gasps from the crowd were audible now. Several people stood up, backing away from the altar as if proximity to Marcus might contaminate them. That's a lie, Marcus shouted, his composure finally shattering completely. I never threatened you. I would never. I have the phone calls recorded, Maya said quietly. Your attorney didn't realize I was documenting everything. And before you say it's inadmissible because California is a two-party consent state, the calls were made from his office in New York, which allows one-party recording. My lawyer made sure of that. She turned to Sienna one final time. I'm not here to destroy your wedding, Sienna. I'm here to save you from making the biggest mistake of your life. Marcus doesn't love you. He loves your family's reputation and your father's connections and the fact that marrying into the Montgomery family would make it much harder for investigators to look too closely at his finances. He's not a good man. He's a criminal who uses people and discards them when they become inconvenient. Sienna stared at Marcus, her face a mask of betrayal and devastation. Tell me she's lying. Tell me right now that none of this is true. Marcus looked at his bride, at the 300 guests who were now filming everything on their phones, at his parents in the front row who looked like they'd aged 10 years in the past 10 minutes. When he spoke, his voice was hollow. I can explain everything if you just give me a chance. The money was borrowed, not stolen. The restraining order was necessary because she wouldn't stop harassing me. The settlement offer was just to protect both of us from a messy court battle. None of this is what it looks like. None of it is what it looks like, Sienna repeated slowly. Then she ripped off her veil with both hands, tearing the delicate lace, and threw it at Marcus's feet. You're right, Marcus. None of this is what it looks like. It looks like I was about to marry a man I loved. But what it actually is. It's me escaping a nightmare. She gathered her dress and ran down the aisle, her bridesmaids scrambling to follow. The cathedral erupted into chaos, people shouting, Marcus's parents confronting him, security trying to restore order. Maya stood at the altar, holding her folder, watching everything she'd set in motion unfold like dominoes falling in a perfect chain reaction. Marcus grabbed her arm, his grip tight enough to hurt. Do you have any idea what you've just done? Do you understand that you've destroyed everything? My career, my reputation, my future. No, Maya said, pulling her arm away. I've given my daughter a future where she doesn't grow up watching her father abuse and manipulate people. I've given her a future where she knows her mother was strong enough to stand up and tell the truth even when it was terrifying. She placed one hand on her belly, feeling her daughter kick in response. And I've given myself the freedom to stop being afraid of you. Marcus stared at her for a long moment, and Maya saw something she'd never seen before in his eyes, the realization that he'd finally, irrevocably, lost. You'll regret this, he said quietly. When the lawyers are finished with you, when you can't find work anywhere, when you're raising our daughter in poverty because you decided to play hero, you'll regret this. Maybe, Maya agreed. But at least I'll be able to look her in the eye. She turned and walked back down the aisle, past the shocked guests and the arguing families, past the bridesmaids crying in the vestibule and the ushers frantically calling security. She walked out into the February rain, letting it wash over her face, mixing with the tears she'd been holding back for 8 months. Her phone buzzed. A text from her lawyer: "I'm seeing videos. Well done. We'll talk Monday about next steps." Another text from her best friend: "Holy shit. You're my hero. Coming to get you." And then one from a number she didn't recognize. "This is Sienna. Thank you. I need to know everything." Maya stood in the rain, holding her belly, and felt something she hadn't felt in so long she'd almost forgotten what it was called. Hope. The coffee shop was nearly empty at 8 on a Sunday morning, just Maya and Sienna sitting in a back corner booth while rain continued to hammer against the windows. Sienna looked nothing like the pristine bride from yesterday. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, her face scrubbed clean of makeup, wearing jeans and an oversized sweater that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent but looked remarkably normal. "I didn't sleep," Sienna said without preamble. "I keep thinking about everything you said. Everything you showed everyone. And I keep wondering how I missed all of it." Maya wrapped her hands around her coffee mug, decaf, for the baby, and studied the woman Marcus had chosen to replace her. Up close, without the wedding makeup and designer dress, Sienna looked young. Vulnerable. "How long were you together?" 6 months. Sienna laughed bitterly. 6 months and I thought I knew him. He was charming, successful, everything my parents hoped I'd find. My father did business with his family's firm. Marcus seemed perfect. She looked up, her blue eyes rimmed with red. "When did you know he wasn't?" "About 2 years in," Maya admitted. "Small things at first. Money disappearing from our joint account, unexplained late nights, the way he'd get angry when I asked questions. But I loved him. And he was so good at making me feel like I was the problem. Like I was paranoid or controlling or not supportive enough of his career." "He told me you were crazy," Sienna said softly. "Obsessed with him. That you'd fabricated the pregnancy to try to win him back after he broke up with you. He showed me the restraining order and I believed him. I felt sorry for him, actually. For having to deal with a stalker ex." Maya felt the old shame try to rise up, but she pushed it down. "He's a master manipulator. That's what narcissists do, they make you question your own reality until you don't trust your own judgment anymore." "The money," Sienna said. "Is it really as bad as you said?" "Worse, probably. My lawyer only had 3 weeks to dig, and she found $2. 3 million in clear embezzlement. There's likely more hidden deeper. Marcus has been living beyond his means for years, and when his salary couldn't cover it anymore, he started borrowing from client accounts thinking he'd pay it back before anyone noticed. But he didn't pay it back. Gambling addiction is expensive. So are maintaining multiple apartments for different girlfriends." Maya saw Sienna flinch and felt a stab of sympathy. "I'm sorry. I know that's hard to hear. Multiple girlfriends?" Sienna's voice was barely a whisper. "I found evidence of at least 3 during the time we were together. I'm sure there were more I didn't discover. Marcus likes the thrill of conquest. Once he has you, once you're committed, the excitement fades and he needs someone new to make him feel powerful." Sienna was quiet for a long time, staring into her own coffee. "My father called me this morning. He's already pulling all of the Montgomery family investments from the Chen firm. He's talking about filing his own lawsuit. He said I humiliated the family by running out of the wedding like that, but he understands why I did it." "Did Marcus try to contact you?" 47 calls, 32 texts, 6 emails. Sienna pulled out her phone and showed Maya the notifications. All of them saying the same thing: "You twisted the truth, I can explain everything, please give him a chance to make this right. His parents showed up at my apartment at midnight. My father had security escort them out." Maya felt her daughter kick and shifted in her seat, trying to find a comfortable position. Sienna noticed and her expression softened. "What are you due?" 3 weeks. March 15th. Maya put a hand on her belly. I'm terrified, honestly. Single motherhood wasn't exactly my plan. What was your plan? The usual fairy tale, I guess. Marriage, house in the suburbs, 2.5 kids. I thought Marcus was my forever. Maya smiled sadly. But sometimes the universe has better plans than the ones we make. Do you have family? Support? My parents died in a car accident when I was 22. I have a brother in Seattle, but we're not close. Mostly it's going to be me and her figuring it out together. She saw Sienna's expression and shook her head. I'm okay with that. I'm a social worker. I've spent years helping single mothers navigate the system. At least I know what resources are available. What about money? Can you work while pregnant? I'm on leave until after the baby comes. I have some savings, but they're running out fast. Marcus made sure I couldn't afford a good lawyer by draining our joint account before I even realized we were breaking up. Everything I spent on the investigation came from money I'd been saving for the baby's nursery. Maya's voice cracked slightly. But it was worth it. She's worth it. Sienna reached across the table and took Maya's hand, the gesture so unexpected that Maya almost pulled away. What if I told you I wanted to help? Would you let me? Sienna, hear me out. Sienna's grip tightened. My father is one of the best attorneys in California. He already offered to represent you pro bono in any legal action against Marcus. And I have connections, friends who work in child welfare, organizations that support single mothers, resources you probably don't even know exist because you're too busy helping everyone else to ask for help yourself. Maya felt tears threatening. Why would you do that? You barely know me. Because you saved my life yesterday, Sienna said simply. You didn't have to come to that cathedral. You could have let me marry him, let me figure out who he was after it was too late to escape without lawyers and divorce proceedings and public humiliation. But you stood up in front of 300 people and risked everything to tell the truth. That took courage I'm not sure I'll ever have. You had the courage to run, Maya pointed out. To walk away from everything you'd planned, in front of everyone you know. That's not nothing. I ran because you gave me the information I needed to see clearly. Now I want to help you and your daughter have the future you deserve. Sienna pulled out a business card. This is my father's personal number. Call him Monday morning. He's expecting you. Maya took the card with trembling fingers, reading the name embossed in elegant script, Robert Montgomery III, Senior Partner, Montgomery & Associates. The kind of law firm that charged $800 an hour and had offices in 6 countries. I can't afford, you don't have to. He's doing this for me, not for money. He wants to make sure Marcus pays for what he did, not just to you, but to all his victims. Sienna stood up, pulling on her coat. I should go. My mother is having a breakdown over the wedding venue deposits, and I need to pretend to care about that instead of caring about the fact that I almost married a criminal. Maya stood too, awkward with her belly. Sienna, thank you. Truly. Thank you for telling the truth even when it was terrifying. Sienna surprised her by pulling her into a gentle hug, careful of Maya's pregnant belly. Call my father. Let us help. And Maya? Yes? I hope your daughter knows how lucky she is to have a mother like you. After Sienna left, Maya sat back down and pulled out her phone. The videos from yesterday had gone viral. #Cathedral confrontation was trending on Twitter, the footage shared millions of times. In the videos, she looked fierce and strong, nothing like the broken woman she'd felt like for the past 8 months. The comments were mostly supportive, with thousands of women sharing their own stories of abusive partners and close calls with dangerous men. But there were also the trolls, people calling her attention-seeking, a homewrecker, accusing her of making it all up for sympathy or money. She tried not to read those, but they still crept in, making her question whether she'd done the right thing. Her phone rang. Her lawyer's number. Please tell me you've seen the videos, Jennifer said without preamble. Please tell me you understand what a gift you've just given us. A gift? Marcus's attorney called me this morning. They want to settle. Full child support, college fund, medical expenses, and they're dropping the restraining order. They know they're screwed, Maya. The videos prove you weren't harassing him, you were trying to protect yourself and your daughter. Maya felt something loosen in her chest. What about the embezzlement? Oh, that's out of my hands now. But I spoke with a friend at the SEC, and let's just say Marcus is going to have a very interesting Monday morning. They've already frozen his accounts pending investigation. His parents are cooperating to try to save the family firm, which means they're handing over every record they have of Marcus's activities. His parents are turning on him? His parents are saving themselves. Marcus destroyed their reputation, stole from their clients, and nearly brought down a company they spent 40 years building. They're cutting ties completely. Jennifer's voice softened. How are you feeling about all this? Honestly? Terrified. Relieved. Guilty. Vindicated. All at the same time. That's normal. You just blew up your ex-fiancé's entire life in front of 300 witnesses. It's natural to have complicated feelings about that, even when he deserved it. Jennifer paused. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. That little girl is going to grow up knowing her mother fought for her. After hanging up, Maya ordered another coffee and opened her laptop. She had an email from her supervisor at the Department of Children and Family Services asking her to call ASAP. Her stomach dropped, worried that the videos had somehow compromised her job, but when she called, her supervisor's voice was warm. Maya, I just wanted you to know that the department stands behind you 100%. What you did took incredible courage, and frankly, it's made us all very proud to have you on our team. I was worried it would reflect badly on the department, Maya admitted. That standing up so publicly might seem unprofessional. Are you kidding? You're a social worker who literally practices what she preaches about standing up to abuse and manipulation. You're a role model. Take all the maternity leave you need, and know that when you're ready to come back, we'll be here. By noon, Maya had received 3 job offers from other agencies, 2 requests for interviews from major news outlets, and a message from a literary agent asking if she'd ever considered writing a book about her experience. It was overwhelming and surreal, this sudden transformation from victim to survivor to, apparently, inspiration. Her daughter kicked hard against her ribs, and Maya put a hand on her belly. I know, sweetheart. It's a lot. But we're okay. We're going to be okay. She thought about Sienna's offer, about Robert Montgomery III and his fancy law firm. She thought about the settlement Marcus's attorney had proposed, about the future that was suddenly, impossibly, looking brighter than it had in 8 months. She thought about standing at that altar, holding that folder, watching everything she'd worked so hard to document finally being believed. Most of all, she thought about the moment when she'd walked out of that cathedral into the rain and felt hope for the first time in so long. Not hope that Marcus would come back or apologize or magically become a better person. But hope that she was strong enough to survive this, to build a life for herself and her daughter, to be the kind of mother who taught by example that truth mattered and courage meant standing up even when you were terrified. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Sienna. My father wants to meet with you tomorrow. Also, I may have told him about your nursery situation. He's sending furniture. Don't argue. Let people help you. Maya looked around the coffee shop at the other customers, all of them lost in their own worlds, their own problems. None of them knew that the pregnant woman in the corner booth had just become an accidental viral sensation. None of them knew that she'd spent yesterday morning terrified she was going into premature labor and yesterday afternoon destroying the man who'd tried to destroy her. She opened her email and began composing a message to Robert Montgomery III's office, accepting the meeting. Then she opened a new document and started typing, the words flowing faster than she could think them through. My name is Maya Chen, and this is the story of how I learned that telling the truth can be the most terrifying and liberating thing you ever do. She'd never written anything longer than case reports before, but the story poured out of her: 6 years of relationship with Marcus, the pregnancy, the restraining order, the months of investigation that led to that folder. The fear and anger and hope and strength she discovered she had when she needed it most. By the time she finished, it was dark outside and the coffee shop was closing. She'd written 15,000 words without stopping, her back aching and her daughter kicking furiously in protest at being still for so long. But she had the bones of something real, something true, something that might help other women recognize the signs she'd ignored for so long. She saved the document and closed her laptop, gathering her things slowly. As she stood up to leave, a woman approached her, middle-aged, well-dressed, eyes red from crying. "I'm sorry to bother you," the woman said quietly. "But I was at the cathedral yesterday. I'm friends with Marcus's mother. And I just wanted to say thank you." Maya blinked in surprise. "For what?" "My son is engaged to a man like Marcus. Charming, successful, but something's always felt wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it, just a mother's intuition that something wasn't right. Yesterday, watching you stand up and tell the truth about Marcus, I realized what that feeling was. My son's fiancée is hiding something. I don't know what yet, but you gave me the courage to start asking questions." The woman pressed a piece of paper into Maya's hand. "This is my information. If you ever need anything, if you or your daughter ever need help, please call me. You saved my son from making a terrible mistake. Let me return the favor someday." After the woman left, Maya stood in the empty coffee shop and cried. Not tears of sadness or fear, but tears of release, of recognition that what she'd done mattered beyond just her own situation. That telling her truth had given other people permission to tell theirs. She drove home through the rain, one hand on her belly, thinking about the future stretching ahead of her. It wouldn't be easy, single motherhood never was, and she was starting with less than nothing after spending her savings on the investigation. But she had something Marcus could never take away. She had the truth, and she had the courage to speak it. And she had a daughter who would grow up knowing that her mother stood up for what was right, even when it cost everything. That was worth more than any wedding at St. Catherine's Cathedral. Monday morning arrived with brutal efficiency. Maya woke at 6 to contractions, real ones this time, not the Braxton Hicks that had been plaguing her for weeks. She lay in bed timing them for an hour, waiting to see if they'd stop. They didn't. Instead, they grew stronger, more regular, spaced exactly 7 minutes apart with the precision of a metronome counting down to the inevitable. Her phone was already buzzing with messages before she'd even gotten out of bed. Jennifer, her lawyer, confirming their 10 o'clock meeting. Robert Montgomery III's office, scheduling an afternoon consultation. 3 news outlets requesting interviews. Her supervisor checking in. Sienna asking how she was feeling. Maya responded to none of them. She was too busy breathing through another contraction and calculating how much time she had before she needed to go to the hospital. Not yet. Not when she had so much left to do. At 8, she drove to the police station despite the contractions now coming every 6 minutes. Detective Sarah Williams was waiting for her, along with 2 officers from the Financial Crimes Unit and a federal agent from the SEC. "Ms. Chen," Detective Williams said, concern creasing her forehead as Maya waddled into the conference room, one hand pressed to her lower back. "Are you sure you're up for this?" "You look like." "I'm fine," Maya lied. "Let's just get this done quickly." They walked her through everything again, the embezzlement, the threats from Marcus's attorney, the restraining order based on false evidence. Maya provided additional documentation she discovered over the weekend, emails from Marcus to his attorney discussing ways to neutralize the Maya situation, recordings of phone calls where they strategized about making her look unstable, text messages to friends laughing about how easy it was to manipulate her. The federal agent, a woman named Patricia Reyes, took notes with increasing intensity. "Ms. Chen, I want to be clear about something. What you've documented here goes beyond civil embezzlement. This is conspiracy to commit fraud, witness intimidation, and potentially racketeering if we can prove Marcus was working with his attorney in an ongoing criminal enterprise." "What does that mean for him?" "It means Marcus Chen is looking at serious federal prison time." Agent Reyes closed her folder. "His attorney is even worse off. Officers of the court are held to a higher standard. If we can prove he knowingly participated in threatening you and fabricating evidence for the restraining order, he's looking at disbarment and significant jail time. Another contraction hit, this one strong enough to make Maya grip the edge of the table. Detective Williams noticed immediately. That's it. We're taking you to the hospital. I have a meeting with Robert Montgomery at 1, Mr. Montgomery can wait, Detective Williams said firmly, already calling for a patrol car. You're having a baby, Ms. Chen. The rest of this can happen after. The next 6 hours blurred together in a haze of pain and epidurals and fluorescent hospital lighting. Maya labored alone except for the nurses and one kind doctor who held her hand during the worst contractions. She thought about calling her brother in Seattle, but they hadn't spoken in months and she couldn't bear the thought of explaining everything right now. At 2:47 p.m. on Monday, February 19th, Maya's daughter entered the world with a piercing cry that seemed to announce her displeasure with the entire situation. The nurse placed her on Maya's chest, tiny and perfect and covered in vernix, with a shock of dark hair and eyes that opened immediately to study her mother's face with intense focus. "Hello, sweet girl," Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I'm your mama. I've been waiting so long to meet you." The baby made a small sound, her tiny fist closing around Maya's finger with surprising strength. In that moment, everything else fell away, Marcus and his crimes, the viral videos, the upcoming legal battles. None of it mattered as much as this, her daughter, finally here, finally safe. "Have you chosen a name?" the nurse asked gently. Maya had been avoiding this question for months, unable to decide what to call the child Marcus didn't want and she'd fought so hard to protect. But looking at her daughter now, fierce and determined even at minutes old, the answer was obvious. "Vera," she said. "It means truth." She stayed in the hospital for 2 days, learning how to nurse and change diapers and function on 2 hours of sleep. Sienna visited on Tuesday, bringing an enormous care package and holding Vera with the careful reverence of someone who'd never been around babies before. "She's beautiful," Sienna said softly, watching Vera sleep in her arms. "She looks like you." "Thank God she doesn't look like her father," Maya replied, only half joking. "Have you heard from him?" "His attorney sent a formal settlement proposal this morning. They're offering full child support, medical expenses, and a college fund. They're also offering an additional $100,000 if I agree not to discuss Marcus publicly anymore." Sienna looked up sharply. "Are you going to take it? The child support and medical expenses?" "Yes. She's entitled to those." "The hush money?" Maya smiled grimly. "I told them they could take their $100,000 and use it to pay Marcus's lawyers when the SEC is done with him." "Good." Sienna handed Vera back to Maya with obvious reluctance. "My father wants you to know that his offer of legal representation still stands. He's already filed motions to have the restraining order permanently dismissed and expunged from your record." "Sienna, I can't let your father work for free, you're not letting him do anything. He's choosing to do this." Sienna sat down in the uncomfortable hospital chair. "Can I tell you something? My father has spent his entire career representing rich people who want to get richer. He's brilliant at what he does, but I don't think he's ever felt like his work mattered beyond making money. This case? You? This is the first time I've seen him excited about going to court in years. You're giving him a chance to fight for something real." Maya looked down at Vera, at her perfect tiny face, and felt something shift inside her. For 8 months, she'd been trying to do everything alone, convinced that asking for help was weakness or burden. But maybe accepting help when it was freely offered wasn't weakness. Maybe it was wisdom. "Okay," she said quietly. "Tell your father I accept." "And Sienna? Thank you. For everything." On Wednesday morning, Maya was discharged from the hospital with instructions to rest and recover and follow up with her OB in 2 weeks. A nurse wheeled her down to the entrance where Sienna was waiting with a car seat already installed in the back of a BMW that was probably worth more than Maya's entire year's salary. "You really didn't have to, Maya, please. Just get in the car and let me help." Sienna buckled Vera into the car seat with practiced movements that suggested she'd spent the past 2 days watching YouTube tutorials on infant safety. "We're going to your apartment, and you're going to see what happens when you let people who care about you actually help." Maya's apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building that had seen better days, accessed by stairs that felt like climbing Everest with a newborn. But when Sienna unlocked the door, Maya stopped short in the doorway. The apartment had been transformed. The empty corner where she'd been planning to set up a makeshift nursery now held a white crib with a matching changing table, rocking chair, and dresser. The walls were painted a soft gray-blue, and there were blackout curtains on the windows. A baby monitor sat on the nightstand, next to a white noise machine and a lamp shaped like a moon. "Sienna," Maya breathed. "How did you?" "My father knows people who know people. We had a crew here yesterday while you were in the hospital." Sienna set down the bag she'd been carrying. "The crib is from Pottery Barn, the changing table is built-in storage, and the rocking chair is the same one my mother used with me," she insisted. Maya walked into the room, running her fingers over the soft gray sheets in the crib, the stack of receiving blankets on the changing table, the mobile hanging above that played gentle music. There were diapers stacked on the shelves, wipes, lotions, tiny clothes and newborn and 0 to 3 month sizes. Everything she'd been worried about affording, everything she'd lost sleep over while spending her savings on the investigation, it was all here. "There's more," Sienna said, opening the kitchen cabinets. They were stocked with easy meals, protein bars, instant coffee, everything a new mother might need when she was too exhausted to cook. "And there's a cleaning service coming twice a week for the next 3 months, prepaid. And a lactation consultant on speed dial. And, Sienna." Maya's voice cracked. "Why are you doing all this?" "Because I was supposed to marry Marcus. I was supposed to be the one planning a future with him, trusting him, building a life with him." Sienna's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "But you saved me from that. You risked everything to tell the truth, and now you're here alone with a newborn and mounting legal bills and an ex who wants to destroy you. So I'm going to help however I can, and you're going to let me, because that's what women do, we support each other when men try to tear us down." Maya sat down in the rocking chair, still holding Vera, and cried. Not the desperate, terrified tears of the past 8 months, but tears of relief and gratitude and the overwhelming recognition that she wasn't alone anymore. Over the next few days, Maya settled into the surreal rhythm of new motherhood while the world outside her apartment exploded with news about Marcus Chen. The SEC announced a formal investigation. The California State Bar suspended Marcus's law license pending review. His former employer, the family investment firm, filed a civil suit for $3.2 million in damages and restitution. But the biggest bombshell came on Friday, when Agent Reyes held a press conference announcing federal charges against both Marcus and his attorney: conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, witness tampering, and obstruction of justice. The attorney was additionally charged with fabricating evidence and abuse of legal process. Maya watched the press conference from her couch, nursing Vera and trying to process the magnitude of what her folder had unleashed. Marcus's face was plastered across every news channel, his smug smile from old interviews contrasted with the pale, frightened man being led out of his apartment building in handcuffs. Her phone rang. Robert Montgomery III's personal number. "Ms. Chen, I wanted to inform you that Marcus's attorney contacted me this morning. They're withdrawing all settlement offers and are apparently planning to file a countersuit claiming you defamed Marcus by showing the documents at the Cathedral." Maya felt her stomach drop. Can they do that? They can try. It won't go anywhere. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation, but they're desperate. Marcus is looking at 10 to 15 years in federal prison, and his attorney is looking at disbarment and 5 to 10 years. Desperate men do desperate things. So what do? We fight back. I'm filing a civil suit on your behalf for emotional distress, fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and a dozen other causes of action. We're going to make it very clear that any countersuit will be met with an aggressive legal response that will cost them more than they can afford. Robert's voice was firm, confident. "Ms. Chen, I want you to trust me on this. I've been practicing law for 40 years, and I promise you, Marcus Chen has already lost. He just doesn't know it yet. After hanging up, Maya looked down at Vera, who was watching her with those intense newborn eyes that seemed to see everything. Your father is in a lot of trouble, sweet girl. And I'm terrified about what that means for us. But I promise you this, I will never let him hurt you the way he hurt me. Never. Vera made a small sound that could have been agreement or gas, but Maya chose to interpret as agreement. That evening, Sienna arrived with dinner and her mother, Caroline Montgomery, a woman who radiated the kind of effortless elegance that came from generations of old money and good breeding. Maya had expected coldness or judgment. After all, she was the broke social worker who'd publicly humiliated the man Caroline's daughter was supposed to marry. Instead, Caroline swept into the apartment and immediately asked to hold Vera. She's precious, Caroline said, settling into the rocking chair with Vera cradled expertly in her arms. Sienna told me everything about Marcus, about what he did to you. I want you to know that the Montgomery family stands behind you completely. Mrs. Montgomery, I appreciate that, but I don't want to cause any problems for your family. You haven't caused problems. Marcus caused problems. You simply had the courage to expose them. Caroline looked up from Vera with sharp intelligence in her eyes. My husband has already begun freezing Marcus's remaining assets and coordinating with the other victims to build a comprehensive case. We're going to make sure he pays for what he's done to everyone he's hurt. Including your daughter. Especially my daughter. Caroline's expression hardened. Marcus Chen tried to marry into our family to cover his crimes and use our name to legitimize his fraud. That is unforgivable. If I had my way, he'd never see daylight again. Sienna appeared from the kitchen with plates of food, roasted chicken, vegetables, salad from some expensive restaurant Maya couldn't afford. Mother is being remarkably bloodthirsty about this. I've never seen her so angry. I'm angry because I trusted that young man, Caroline replied, still holding Vera with practiced ease. I welcomed him into our home, introduced him to our friends, stood by while he courted my daughter with expensive gifts funded by stolen money. I should have seen the signs. We all should have, Maya said quietly. But Marcus is very good at hiding who he really is. They ate dinner together, the three of them passing Vera back and forth when she fussed, and Maya felt something she hadn't felt in years, the warmth of female friendship and support. Not the conditional friendship of people who wanted something from her, but genuine connection from women who'd been through their own battles and recognized a fellow survivor. After Caroline left, Sienna stayed to help with Vera's bath, a terrifying process that involved tiny slippery limbs and too much screaming. When Vera was finally clean and dressed in pajamas that had little moons on them, Sienna sat cross-legged on Maya's bed and asked the question Maya had been dreading. Have you thought about what happens when Marcus gets out? When this is all over and he's served his time and wants to be part of Vera's life? Maya looked down at her daughter, sleeping peacefully in her arms. I think about it constantly. The idea of him having any access to her terrifies me. My father says there are legal options. Given the threats Marcus made, the restraining order he fabricated, the criminal charges, you could petition to have his parental rights terminated or severely restricted. But she's still his daughter. Doesn't she deserve to know her father? She deserves to know a father who's safe and trustworthy and capable of putting her needs before his own ego, Sienna said firmly. Marcus has proven he's none of those things. Vera's rights matter more than Marcus's. Maya thought about the folder she'd carried into that cathedral, about all the evidence she'd compiled of Marcus's lies and crimes and manipulations. She thought about the settlement offer that included paying her to disappear, about the threats from his attorney, about the way Marcus had tried to erase both her and their daughter from his life when they became inconvenient. You're right, she said finally. Vera deserves better than a father who sees her as a burden or a mistake. She deserves to grow up surrounded by people who love her unconditionally and put her needs first. People like you, Sienna said. And like my family, if you'll let us be part of her life. Maya looked up, surprised. You want to be part of Vera's life? Is that weird? I know we barely know each other, and technically I was almost her father's wife, which makes this complicated. It's not weird, Maya interrupted. It's kind. And unexpected. And honestly, Sienna, I could use all the help I can get. Sienna smiled, that genuine expression that transformed her face from merely pretty to luminously beautiful. Then consider yourself adopted into the Montgomery family. We're loud and opinionated, and my mother will probably try to take over your entire life, but we're loyal and we protect our own. After Sienna left, Maya lay in bed with Vera sleeping in the bassinet beside her and thought about everything that had changed in the past week. She'd gone from pregnant and alone, terrified of the future and drowning in fear about how she'd survive, to a new mother with a support system and legal representation and a nursery that looked like something from a magazine. And Marcus who'd tried to destroy her, who'd wanted her to disappear, who'd filed false restraining orders and threatened her and stolen from everyone who trusted him, Marcus was in jail awaiting federal trial. His career destroyed, his reputation ruined, his freedom gone. The revenge should have felt sweeter. Maya had imagined this moment during the long months of investigation, pictured Marcus brought low by his own crimes. But now that it was real, she felt mostly hollow. Punishing Marcus wouldn't give her back the 6 years she'd wasted loving him. It wouldn't erase the pain or the fear or the nights she'd spent wondering if she was crazy to suspect him of the things he later proved he'd done. Justice wasn't healing. It was just justice. But Vera was healing. Every time her daughter looked at her with those serious eyes, every time she nursed or slept or cried or lived, Maya felt a little more of the pain fade. This tiny human who'd been conceived in the wreckage of her relationship with Marcus, who Marcus hadn't wanted, who'd been called a mistake and a burden, this was her redemption. Maya's phone buzzed with a notification. Another news alert about Marcus's case, this one about his parents formally disowning him and cooperating with prosecutors in exchange for immunity. She closed the notification without reading it. Marcus's downfall was news, but it wasn't her news anymore. Her news was the little girl sleeping beside her, breathing softly in the dark. Her news was the friends she'd unexpectedly made and the future she was building from nothing but determination and truth. Her news was survival, and more than that, it was the possibility of something beyond mere survival. It was the possibility of actually thriving. She closed her eyes and slept, and for the first time in 8 months, she didn't dream about the cathedral or the folder or Marcus's face when he realized she'd won. She dreamed about Vera's first birthday, her first day of school, her graduation, her wedding, all the moments Marcus would miss because he'd chosen greed and ego over love. His loss was absolute. And her gain was immeasurable.